Hi, this is Christian. Welcome to ASP.NET. Now, in the previous video, we already finished covering the introduction to the ASP.NET Web Forms. The next one I want to talk about is the Mvc framework. So, I'm going to open a new instance. I'll leave this alone so you can compare the file structures over here. So, I'm going to go into my Visual Studio, right-click on it, and just create a new instance. So you can open multiple instances. It's just that it consumes a lot of RAM. So if you don't have enough RAM, you want to close the other one. But I think I have enough. Okay, so here, we're just going to go right into the shortcut here because I already created the ASP.NET before. So you should be available. You should click it here just to get it really quick. Again, if you don't see that here, just click the icon here for new project or file, new project. Either way, it will take you there. Again, web under Visual C, ASP Web Application. I'm going to call it my first MVC. I'm going to be consistent. ASP MVC. Okay, it's a lot of uppercase letters, but that's okay. Click OK. And I'm going to choose MVC this time. Make sure you check that. We don't need to do any unit test for now. It's going to take a little while to create that project for us. Once I'm there, I can probably go back and close the other applications so it doesn't consume a lot of RAM. It will load a little bit faster. But here we go. And I will try to put both side by side. At least you can see what the photo structures look like. And then after that, we'll dive into the MVC application. So, okay, so here we have it. The MVC. Yours may not look like this because I probably messed around with my code a little bit, so the layout is different. So usually you'll see the Solution Explorer on the right side. But let me go back to the window and reset my layout. Okay, to the original. Not even like that, not even close, but what happened here? Let me close all of these and we'll see what happens. Okay, I'm going to close all of them. It's not showing what I wanted to show. It should be the other format. Let me just reset this again. Okay, oh well. But typically your solutions are here. The toolbox should be on this side. So it should be on this side of the screen. And same thing with these guys here. These should be all on the left side here. So they should be over there actually. But I guess I was just gonna leave it that for now. And I don't need this one. I can close these. Okay, server. This one too needs to go over here. Okay. Let me set that up. Okay, so over here I'll see your toolbox. Your editing area here on the right side is your Solution Explorer and so forth. The properties down here. Okay, so this is the MVC, and let me load the old one. This is the form, web form. So you can see the differences between the two. The MVC has like very few files outside here in the root folder, whereas the ASP.NET form, you have all your ASP pages here. So you have the about, contact, default, which is the index, and we created the hello one over here. Okay, what you don't see over here on the ASP.NET forms are the controller folder, okay, the models, and something called the views. Okay, and that is the difference. So here we have website created, all your HTML are inside this master file, right? All your code are here. But even if you create your own file without the master, you will put all your HTML tags here along with your ASP code. Okay, so everything is focused, everything is like laid out here in the same file. Plus you have the behind code file to store your C# code. Okay. Now in the MVC diagram, model, if we go back here now, you see that we have the views Inside the views, we have something called the home. This is called the home controller, and I'll show you in a minute. A home folder for the home controller. Think of this as a directory, which is, it is a directory called home, right? So under the home directory, we have the about page, the contact page, and the index page, which look very similar to the ASP.NET, the web forms, right? Those three. Instead of default, we call it index in this case. And the extensions are now called .cshtml instead of the ASP X or the .cs. This is the one now. CS again stands for C#. If you're using Visual Basic, I'm assuming this would be .vbhtml instead. Okay, but we're going to do C#. So under the shared folder, you have something called a layout. So usually all your layouts are going here. This is like the site master, right? That's similar to your master page here. So your master is the default layout. And the MVC, this is your master. So you here again, it looks very similar to the other one. All your HTML docs are here. The head section, the body section, all your navigation goes here. And then the content of the body, okay, you have something called the add symbol followed by a function called render body function. And this is where you put all your body content. It shows up here. And then this is the footer of your page, right? Very similar to this site master over there on the web form. Again, your documents here, your body, and then here is we'll put your content inside this content placeholder called main content. So identical in many ways. Now this function will render your code. I'm not going to go into detail right now, but it will render your code based on what you put in these templates here. So in the about page, for example, you have, this is all you have. So everything here you see here, okay, everything here will be rendered into this layout area under the body, render body function. Okay, close that. So that's how MVC works. So you have the views. Views means all your HTML pages, okay, categorized by each folder, usually the root folder here. And then we have the models. You don't have anything yet. Later on we will. This is where you put all your data. Like you will store your data here. So mainly it's a class of data. Maybe like a class called customer, right? And here you have your customer name, ID, address, phone number, and so on. You build that inside here as a class, as a C# class. And then the controller is here. The controller has something called home controller.cs. Again, this is a C# file. Open that, you'll see something like this. It's a class called home controller. Extends the controller class, superclass. And we have something called index about contact, right? These correspond to the index about contact pages here, okay? So that's what they mean. It will map one-to-one. Okay, if you don't have a contact page here, it's gonna cause some error, because when you click on the contact page, it's gonna look for a contact.chhtml in the views. Okay, so that's the contact. If you create a third page called maybe like I don't know, products or something, right? Or products CS.html, then in here you should have another function called product. And it will look very similar to this. Okay, we'll go into details about what all these means and the action result and how you pass data from here to your view. So remember, this is about you separating all these three contents in their own different components. So the only way to talk between those two is through some special functions, and one of them is called the view bag. Okay, and again, we'll go over these later on. So here's the flow of data. And again, in the app start, we have the bundle, just like before, the router. Okay, we'll go over this later on. This is really important. The router basically controls your URL, what URL should look like. Okay, so you have here the URL. The default is the controller name. In this case, it would be home controller, but we just call it home. The action would be what kind of action it is. Is it an index, the about, the contact. So this will be like these pages, followed by an ID. If you have an ID, so this is like, for example, if you have a product search, you have like maybe like a product category, search function, and then search for a keyword or key term or key ID. That's how it's structured in the router. But we'll go over this later on. Okay, so your web page starts and it loads the controller. It goes to the index to look for the controller. It looks in the index because the default is index, goes to the index function, and then it's going to return the view. So what that means is that it's going to look into the views folder, okay, over here. And inside the view folder is look for a home controller. So the word home controller here is important. But basically it looks for the word home. It's going to find a folder called home, and then inside the home it's going to look for a file that has the word index in it. Okay, if you change this to the index 2 and if it doesn't match this one, it's not going to find it. Okay, so they have to match. It's going to look for this index. So inside the index, whatever it is, it's going to grab, for example, it's going to grab everything here, whatever you see here, all these HTML, and return it back to the controller so that, grab that, return it to the index page, and display that to the browser. Okay, that's how it flows. So again, if you click on the index, it goes in here, fetch the view, the content, and then renders that to the view. So let me run this so we can see what's like. I'm going to go into the debug and just run without debugging. And it's a sample page, so it should look very similar to the forms, which you already done in the last assignment. Okay, so here it is. Let's take a few seconds to load. And later on, I will show a diagram of how they work. But I think it's also in the textbook and a lot of places. All right, so here we are. It looks just like the other one, right? No changes. It looks undetectable. So the home, okay, the about. If you click on the about, you see the URL changes to a directory called home, followed by / and then about. Okay, and then the contact, right? And if you remember, I talked about a little bit on the router. You have an ID, the category, which is home, action, which is contact. If you put ID here, for example, if I put 1, 2, 3, it doesn't work in this example because it doesn't detect that, but usually you put the ID here or some kind of data here so you can process inside the code. All right, so just that. That's how it works. Let's go back to the form. Okay, so here again, in the controller would come back later on, but let's go back to the, not the index, I'm going back to the about page. Okay, so here we have a special syntax. It's an @ symbol followed by a pair of curlies. Inside the curlies we have something called a view bag. Okay, view bag is a special object that passes data from the C# classes here to the view. Okay, so this is the about page. So if you look at this in the about page, if you go there, there's a view bag.message. Now, what does this message come from? It doesn't come from anywhere. You just create it yourself, right? So I could go in here and say view bag dot something, and is something. Okay, so it's a variable. It's an property that I assign to view bag, and then this message then can be passed to the view, which is in this case the about view. So if I go over here, well, if you look at this view message, it has this your application's description page. This message here comes through the view bag, and you show it here, right? So that's why in the browser you see in the about page, this text comes from this message here. Okay, and then this one here is just that third line down here. Okay, all right, so now I just created a message called view back something, and to display that, let's just say I'm going to go right down here and I'll put a H3 again, and I'll put the @ symbol followed by the view back dot something. Okay, I save that, and because I changed my C# file also, I need to rebuild my solution. So let's go to build and rebuild it, just like the other application. If you change your C# files, you have to rebuild the solution. If you just change your view, you don't have to. Okay, so that's done. Go back and refresh my page. Okay, so here you see that something goes here. The message shows here. It comes from the controller class. It passes data to the view. You wonder, why would you do that? Well, because there's no way for this file to reach back into the controller other than through the view back, and a few others too, but mostly with the view back, and there's another view data and so on, but like that, right? Okay, so let's look at this for a minute here. In the section on the top here, with the @ symbol, the curly brace, here you can put your C# code, just like in the web forms. I could go in here and say string message, right? We call it new message. New message is equal to hi there. Okay. And then down here, I could show a message down here. We'll put a paragraph, and we'll put in here the @ symbol. You have to put the @ symbol, just new message. Okay. And it will know that this is a message from this string here called new message. Again, I'm not touching the CS file, so just save that, go back and reload, and that should load my message. So here it is. So just like the other one, same thing. I can put a function here too. I can say function, and I think you cannot put like private or public here. You just put the function in the data type. So it's going to return a string, and I'm just going to say get new message or get message, and I will return that new string or the new message. So now I can, instead of saying new message, I can call the function which is get message. Okay, and we'll change the message to say something else. We'll change it to hello. Save it, refresh, and you should see that new message here, hello there. All right, so it's kind of neat, right? Not that different. The only difference is you have this @ symbol, and these are what's called razor syntax. Okay, it's a razor syntax. It's a different syntax they use for the MVC than the other one. The other one just like ASP expressions. Okay, so if you take that out, then it'll be just another text, right? If you save that, it's not going to know this is a function. It's just going to say that get message with the paren as an HTML text. Okay, so it's important to put that tag there. All right, so this is how you do it. And now, let's just say back in the controller. Okay, so if you want to create another page, right? So let's just say that maybe instead of home, you want to create another directory instead of the home directory. Maybe we call something like the user directory or something, right? So you will go here into the views, create a new folder, add a new directory, and we'll call this user. Okay, so inside a user, usually every folder, it's like you have to have an index in there. So when I go to the user folder, I will load the index by default. In other words, if I go to about, home page, it loads the index page, right? So if I go to the user, I should also load the index, right? As you can see, it doesn't know that. So we have to put the index in there. So again, I will go here and create the index page, just like these, but we'll just create one for the index. So I'll go right click and add a new new view. Okay, new view, and we'll call this index, just like the other one, index. And you can go with the empty, or you can go and choose one that has a let's see, empty with the model. Yeah, okay, with the model is fine. We'll just go index, click add, and it's gonna populate that with some other data for us. Okay, so here we have the index already pre-populated for us with the index as the title and so on. Now this is a little bit different from theirs. Like if you look at the home, you look at the index, you have something, well, yeah, it is similar. It has more stuff, that's all. But it still have the title here. Okay, so we're good. And just put the index here as by default. Okay, so we're just going to create that one. And then now I have to go to the controllers and create a new controller called user controller. Remember, the word user here has to be part of the controller, and the word controller is required. So I'm going to go right click on the controllers, add a new controller. Okay, it will be just the MVC controller empty is fine. You just click that one, go next, and then again the default will be changed to user controller. You need the controller there. Click add, and so it pre-populate this for us already. And again, here it has a function called index by default. So we already created index in our view under the user folder index. So now this should be good to go. If I save this, because I added new stuff in here, I'm going to go and rebuild my files. Once it's done, then I'm going back to the browser and we'll go into the user directory and the navigation. Okay, so back here. Now, in the home, you have the index, about, right? Did I refresh? Yeah, about, contact. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the user. As you can see, the user loads the index. That index is this index we created here. It has the word index only, right? That's all we have. I don't have any other stuff. If I go into like user, maybe like info or something, right? It's not going to know that because I don't have a view called info. So to do that info, I have to do two things. One, I had to go into my controller, okay, and create another function. I'll just copy this, put down here, and you can put comments in here if you want. Just say info, right, or user info, and change this to info. You can leave it at. It will know that it's going to look for a file in the views folder under the users folder called info.cshtml. I don't have that. It's going to fail. If I save this only, it's going to fail. So if I rebuild, I have the controller. I just don't have the view. So you need one to match that. So now if I go back and refresh, and you should still have the error. Okay, now it says more information. It just says under the info, it's like there's no info. It couldn't find info, right? There's no info ASPX. It looks for one of these, either info.aspx, info CSHTML, info VB, or and so on. Okay, so you need to supply one of those. So let's go here and then create a new one. So again, add new view. It's already here. I think you can go view with razor or view without razor. Okay, so we can go view with razor. And just so this is called the info. So just click OK. And here it has some razor. Razor means like you have some code in here. So we don't need this because it's going to use the template we have. Or does it? Let's see. I don't think it used. Yeah, I didn't use the template because we didn't specify the template. Yeah, so this one does. Okay, so I don't need this, right? Because I said doesn't use the layout, right? Showed you can add. I said without with razor without no with razor. I'm sorry, with page, and then with the layout or not. I think I chose this one without the layout. Okay, that's why there's no layout. So let's just try another one. We're just going to test this. Let's just say this is the data, and with the layout, I can choose the layout, right? The layout default here, and you see on the top it says layout is that. So now it has a layout. So I could just copy this into my info and put that here. It says no here, so we'll just add that here. Okay, so it uses both the default layout. So now if I save this and refresh it, and if I go to the info page, so there's my info. I have no data. It didn't crash this time, right? So if I put some data in here, user info, save. So there it is. Okay, so you got to match those two things. You need to get a controller, get a function call, whatever it is, have to match your view, and create your view and provide the data. Okay, so I created one called data. We created one data here. We could just go here, h1, data page. Save that. There's no data in the controller, so if I go to data, right, it will fail. It's no function called data. So how do you do that? Okay, well, I'm going to go to my user controller and copy this and create another function called data. Save and rebuild. I have to rebuild my solution. Takes a little while. Okay, done. If I refresh it, and I should see the data page here loads. There you go. Okay, so the user has those three: the user index, info, and data. Just like the home, index, home about, home contact. All right, so I hope this is at least a little bit clear, and it gives you an idea of the differences between the web forms and MVC. So again, MVC, you have to have a folder for each directory. So if you change the URL to a different folder, then you want to make that folder available, and the inside the folder provide the views. So these are the views. This is your controller, your logic goes in here, and the model is the data. We'll deal with that later, but it's pretty easy. Okay, well, if you have any questions, again, send me an email or post in the forum or Slack, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you.